I hope you're doing okay out there. It's Mr. Fisher. Just want to quickly go over our chapter on contracts. And just a reminder, we're really doing a lot of personal finance stuff. And these will be things that are really important to you when it comes to paying bills, getting into all kinds of stuff as an adult. So take it seriously, and as always, just email me. Here's a little pic of me and the dog out at the beach. This time of year, I love going to the beach and just looking for whales and seals and, you know, just having a good time. But unfortunately, we're not there yet. So just hang in there, stay safe. You guys have this. You're going to be fine. Just keep doing your work and, try to stay positive. Things will get better. And I'm always here if you need to talk to me. You can always get me through email. So contracts. Basically, it's just an agreement to exchange something of value. That's all it means. Everything in the world is contracts, from buying things at a store, taking a job, little things you may not think about, but taking the train to the city, that's a contract between you and the people that run the trains. And then serious stuff that'll really screw you up is like your credit card. As soon as you get a credit card, they have you. You cannot get out of that. It's very hard to break those agreements. And your student loans are virtually impossible. Whether you graduate or whatever, they're going to make you pay those student loans back. So, yeah, be careful when you enter into a contract. You've already done this where you signed up for a website or an app and it said, click here to read the terms of service, and you just check the box and go right through. We all do it, we're all guilty of it, but it's a mistake when you get into big things like buying cars, houses, credit cards. You need to look at the fine print. So we will spend a little time looking at what goes into these contracts. And you can almost always negotiate. People forget that. Everything in life is negotiable. That's something that I almost kind of live by that. It's always possible to get a better deal, better price, a lower interest rate, if you're willing to negotiate. Okay, so negotiation is really an art, and whether it's starting a job or buying a house or a car, any kind of business deals, we always negotiate. And if we were in class, I would have us do some negotiations to see who could negotiate the best price on things. Specifically for your jobs, they will try to get you as cheap as they can to go work for them. And once you have that job, they're going to work you as much as they can. So it's important from the beginning that you value yourself. And I'm going to leave it there for now. But notice in the yellow here, everyone is self-interested. So what that means is we all want to make ourselves better off, make our families better off. And people will take advantage of you if you let them. So you have to be cautious, always know what you're getting into with contracts, and just don't be afraid to negotiate. And I think we'll spend some time on that in our docs. Okay, so on the left you can see some very common situations for a contract. Excuse me. Insurance, employment, student loans, credit cards, your lease. When you get into college and they let you move off campus, say junior year, senior year, you're going to need roommates to pay for those apartments. Do yourself a favor. Let some other kid's parents sign the lease. You say, okay, you do the lease and I'll pay for the gas bill or the phone bill or the internet bill or something. Try to avoid getting into a lease when you're in college because rent is expensive. And if you have a deadbeat roommate, it might be the nicest person in the world, but if they don't pay their share, you're going to be stuck paying the lease. So be careful with that. It's just a FYI. Less common things you can see on the right. Excuse me, I have to take a sip. The biggest one over there on the right is a non-disclosure. That happens when you get involved in something like a settlement from a lawsuit. Sometimes they'll say, we'll give you XYZ amount of money, but you have to sign the non-disclosure agreement, so you can never speak about it, write about it, talk to the news about it. There's a lot of stuff in there. Lottery pools. A lot of teachers like to do lottery pools when you get into work. There'll be someone in the office that wants you to do the lottery pool. You want to have a little agreement, even if it's just scratched out on a note card, like who's in the pool and that you're all equal. because what happens is somebody buys the ticket each month or each week, and if they hit and it wins and you don't have a contract, you're going to have to sue them to get your money. So you have to be really careful. And a prenup, that's when you get into marriage. There's a lot here I would love to talk to you guys about in person, so I'm just going to have to skip over it for now. Okay, these are the things that you really need to know. The elements of a contract: there's an offer, then there has to be acceptance, consideration is something of value, and then you have to be competent to enter into the contract, which basically means you're legal age, you're not mentally disabled. The fun thing about negotiations is you offer a price, and if someone counter offers, that restarts the process. So who is making the offer in a contract flip-flops when you're negotiating. And then once you have acceptance, and there has to be something of value. So you could never make a contract for something that has no value. That would be lacking consideration. Okay, so you can see an offer. All right, and then my question to you is a menu at a restaurant an offer? You see the breakfast special for, $5.99. Is that an offer in your opinion? Yes, it is. And then the next thing is acceptance. It could be action to begin to carry out the terms of the contract. So acceptance would typically be, if you're negotiating over like a used car or something, it would be the handshake. Okay, I agree to your terms, handshake. Usually if it's over $500, you want to put that in writing. Under $500, simple handshake or verbal agreement over the phone is fine. It could be an act also, like they start to cook your food. So at the restaurant, for example, they've accepted and they are cooking. That's kind of a bad example. Anyways, but doing something that's part of the contract. And again, I'm going quickly. Okay, so Rob asks me to rake his yard for $20. Without a word, I go in his garage and get the rake and begin the work. Is there an offer and is there acceptance? I would say yes. The offer is, will you rake it? And the doing of the raking is the acceptance. Now, consideration, there must be value. And that would also be the exchange of the goods or the services and the money. So again, if you can't make a contract to do something for free, there's no consideration there. I think it makes sense. You can always email me if you're confused. And then let's see, here's a little what if. Tammy offers to buy my used car for $3,000. I agree and we shake on it. A week goes by, Tammy drives away in the car. A week later, she still has not paid me the money. So there was an offer, there was acceptance, but the consideration, she broke the contract because she has the car, but she did not pay for it. So actually, that breaks the contract. And then competent, you just have to have capacity and function to make a legal decision. So for you, starting a job, you have that capacity, but to get a credit card, for example, or a car loan, you don't really have that capacity because you're not of legal age to do those things, at least in high school. Okay? So you might look at this one. Can Mr. Fisher make a contract for the Board of Education for our school to purchase 10 new buses? Well, I have the capacity to do that. I'm of legal age and I'm, mentally able to enter into contracts, but I don't have the function. Teachers don't buy buses for schools. So hopefully you can see that in this case, I wouldn't have the function. Therefore, I technically could not enter into a contract to buy buses for the school. Okay, so two teens make an agreement to start a small business doing yard work. They agree to split the cost and profits 50-50. Teen 1 purchases a lawnmower and prints up door hangers and places them on the front doors of hundreds of homes in town. Teen 1 begins doing the work for pay. Teen 2 does nothing for weeks and weeks. Later, so basically the one kid does all the work. Later, Teen 2 demands his share of the profits in the exchange for paying for half of the expenses. Is this a legal contract? The short answer is no, because as teenagers, you really can't enter into contracts. So short answer is no, and I think you can also see that the consideration is not there. If this somehow ended up in court, which it really wouldn't, but maybe it does, I guess Team 2, the most they could probably do is sue to get the money that they put into the business back out, whatever money they paid for expenses, but this is not a legal contract. Okay, so you can enter into these contracts, but the problem is you can also break them. So because you're underage, under the age of 18, you can enter into contracts, but no one can really hold you to them. That's why you'll often need a co-signer. For example, on your student loans. Those loans are in your name, but if your parents are also co-signers, so if you don't pay those loans, they will go after your parents for the money. Same thing with cars, same thing with renting an apartment. Even your first credit card, they might ask you to have a co-signer. If you welch on your debt or you stop paying your bill, they will go after your parents for that money. So there's a bunch more there. I'm just going to have to let it go though. Okay. Just so you know, there's two general categories, we're almost done here, of contracts, expressed and implied. For expressed contracts, that's when you buy something, you take a job, you pay someone to mow your lawn, something like that, or your insurance, where there's literally a contract, and in the contract you see everything that's covered, how much are the deductibles, how much is the monthly payment, all that stuff is spelled out. An implied contract is not written or spoken. Okay, when you buy appliances, there's an implied warranty that it's going to work for what it's supposed to do, and that also comes down to liability issues. If you think back on that, restaurants, there's really no written or spoken contract. It's just implied that when you sit down at the restaurant, you're going to buy something to eat, and if you eat it, you're going to pay for it. And in the moment, like an emergency, there are some implied contracts. You don't really need to know these details. Just know that most contracts are going to be expressed, anything that's of high dollar value, but there's also a lot of implied contracts out there. Our duty of care to each other in society, you could see that as an implied contract. Okay, and just a heads up, if it's going to be something worth $500 or more, you need to put it in writing. Even if it's just on a napkin, on the back of a piece of paper, handwritten, it says, who is it? What is the consideration? What are you buying or selling? How much was the price? And you both sign it. You can take that to court. That is excellent evidence. Remember, in civil court, it's preponderance of evidence. So if you can walk in with a napkin where you wrote down the contract and you both signed it, that's excellent evidence. Okay, just a little bit on illegal contracts. Does anybody know who's in this picture? The gentleman in the white shirt. You might know who he is. So you can't have contracts. They're always void. Anything illegal, anything unconscionable that's like harsh or unfair to one of the parties, you can't have a contract. Fraud, if the contract is deceptive or it has lies in it, it's never going to be legal. And you can't force people into contracts. So non-voluntary. There's a lot here. If we were in class, we could talk. But I just have to let you know for now, keeping it short, illegal contracts. There's a lot of stuff that is illegal to put into a contract. And if you haven't figured it out, the guy in the white shirt, that's Jay-Z. The reason I have him under illegal contracts is this is a picture of him as a teenager when he was involved in a lot of illegal activities before he got into music. So just a quick connection here. 4 elements of a contract. There's an offer, and when you negotiate, the offer keeps going back and forth. So, hey, you want to buy my car for $5,000? Well, I like it, but I'll buy it for $4,000. It went from one offer, then the other person just counter offered. Well, I can't do $4,000. Could you meet me in the middle of $4,500? So when you're negotiating, you're switching back and forth on who's making the offer. Then the acceptance is a handshake or signing the agreement, signing a contract. Consideration is the money exchanges hands or the service is done. There has to be a give and take there of something of value. And then remember, to be competent, you have to be mentally able to sign contracts, and you have to be of age. So like a rental car, you can't do that until you're 21. So age is usually where we get into some trouble with competence. That was a crash course. I look forward to seeing you guys in our little weekly meetings. Stay safe out there. If you need me, if you are stressing out, you can always contact me. I'd be glad to talk to you. And until next time, just stay safe. And that's it for contracts for now. Take care.